Welcome, Jordan Lim,
Thank you.
son of Samuel and Christina.
That I am.
That was official, as I say.
I know.
This is round 2.
Yeah.
So
it's been a hot minute.
Yes. How long has it been?
3 years, I think.
Was it actually
Actually,
3
yeah.
years?
A lot has changed.
That is long.
3 years.
So if you want to see some growth in Jordan or lack thereof, it's all opinion based.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
I would say there's growth,
Oh, thank
but
goodness.
people have their own opinions.
I did watch back little bits and pieces of the old one just yesterday. I was looking through. I was like,
Oh,
man, that's real cringe. The stuff I used to say back then. But I feel like I've changed a little bit, but also not that much.
it's hard, isn't it?
Yeah. I feel like at the core, still sort of the same, but
That's good.
yeah, but just sort of like I would like to think a little bit more refined
Yep.
in 3 years. Like,
Refined.
cutting down a little bit of, stuff that's not supposed to be there, focuses that weren't supposed to be there. But it's interesting and kind of looking at that being like, that is the same person, but it isn't. So, yeah.
I wonder if we ever get to a point where we look back on old footage and we're not like cringe.
Yeah.
Because I don't think there's anything that's longer than a year old that I don't look back on me speaking and I'm like, oh, ew.
Yeah.
Because everything changes.
Yeah.
Haircuts, clothes, language, attitudes,
Yeah.
joy.
Yeah. I was just looking at a photo of you recently, actually. It was on my 21st. And we got to have a talk about that hair situation. It's fine now, but I'll show you later.
Show me now. This is good. Show me. Your phone's on the other side.
My phone's off. It's fine.
No, I can turn it back on. I want to see it.
Gosh, all right. We'll talk about it.
I know the photo. We're all sitting at a table down here at West Burley.
Right, it was pretty crack up, man.
Is it shaved head?
Nah, it was like your current facial hair, but this was like shorter and like way shorter, and like you almost look older in it because you just look, you're balding a little bit, and then the forehead was like really sticking out.
Get this photo.
I'm just being honest with you.
Let's make this about me. Oh, wow.
Yeah, sorry.
No, look, hair's something I really struggle with. You know what I mean? I just can't be bothered doing anything with it.
It looks good now. It was just, it was just something funny I noticed, but.
No, here we go. Got it. Bro, I had short. Oh, what is going on?
Right?
What is that, bro? It looks like I got full-on receding hairlines and like a mohawk strip.
Look, none of us were really great in that photo, but
there's a lot happening.
I thought you deserved a special mention.
Bro, and look how I'm holding my hands. What's wrong? What's going on with me? All right, yeah, people want to see that. That is it's strange. That's strange. Very strange. Marsh, everyone's doing good. Your dad's like, what the heck's going on behind me?
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, you're welcome. Sorry, a little sidetrack.
Yeah, short hair. That's yeah. Okay, I guess we should get into what's changed since 3 years ago.
A lot. Well, even between, just things in life between two of us. I remember within our first podcast, we didn't know each other very well back then. And I think that could have been one of your first insights into my life, really. And for those that don't know, ever since then, Sam's become my mentor. And I've graduated from university. I've, started to actually pursue somewhat of a career that I'm actually enjoying and getting fulfillment from, that can actually take me somewhere.
Yeah, and I'll just state, none of which I can take credit for. Because you said Sam's become my mentor. I graduated from university.
Hey, that's selling yourself short. That's actually selling yourself short.
Look, I have good input.
Yeah.
But I'm not that good.
Yeah.
You're an intelligent young man.
Thank you.
All right, so that's cool. So yeah, you graduated, man. How many years?
That was 5 years.
Wow.
And so the first podcast that we did, I was 2 years into it. So even just that journey alone, so much, growth took place. And I wouldn't even say what I got out of it was like the knowledge. What I got out of it was a character
and a certificate
and a piece of paper that I look at and I'm like, so that took 5 years and 40 grand. Like far out, man. But yeah, I don't even really use the technical knowledge per se of what I learned because it was electrical and computer engineering. And I could not imagine anything worse than being in electrical after doing it. But,
really?
Yeah. I just discovered I hated it. But what I liked instead was the programming aspect.
Yeah.
Because I think the thing that I noticed was that with all of the other engineering disciplines, you've got civil, mechanical, electrical, chemical, they're all constrained by physical things. You're constrained by cost, time, supply chains, and it can really limit how creative you can be because getting from idea to fruition is a very long stretch for those. Not for programming because it's all digital. It's
hours.
Yeah, it just takes time. But that was the thing that I think appealed to me. Like the only thing stopping you from building something and from actually getting somewhere with a solution to a problem is how much you know, how creative you are, and the time that you spend. And that's it.
Bro, and then how crazy is that? Because then also you design something and you sell it, it's ready to go. And then it's limitless how much you can make if it's a good product. Like
look at Spotify. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
How many people own that? Like probably 8 in 10 people. But yeah, software. It's a pretty amazing industry to be in and it moves so quickly as well. Yeah. And just that sort of journey of growing in not so much the technical knowledge, but the confidence that if I'm put in the situation, I can learn what needs to be learned. Yeah. I can acquire the skills that are necessary to be acquired to solve any given problem. I think
that sounds so cool.
Yeah, that was what gave me a lot of confidence, and it made me realize that hey, I don't actually need to stay in the stream that I studied. I have confidence that if I go somewhere else, in anywhere in life, not just career, but if I'm thrown into a situation, if I'm thrown into the fire, I'll figure it out. So,
how many times did you want to quit uni?
Oh, once the whole time.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, especially during because my second year, which is supposed to be the hardest year that anyone faces, because it's sort of that really awkward in between. It's just starting to get difficult, and but it's not far enough in that you can see the end goal.
Yeah.
So that a lot of people drop out in the second year. My second year happened during COVID. So that made it 10 times worse because some people work from home pretty well. I didn't. I lacked a lot of discipline, especially at that stage in my life. And there was also the fact that I struggled to separate leisure from work, especially when they were all in the same place. Like I was just sitting at my desk the whole time. Yeah. So you're just locked up in the room. You're not able to differentiate. And I was naturally geared towards relaxing and enjoying myself. So I'd start missing deadlines. I'd start, slacking off where I knew I was supposed to be studying. And in the end, I think it actually sort of made me not like studying at all. I was just doing it because I knew I had to and because it was the end goal that I had set my mind on, and I just had to see it through.
What helped you? Like, I like that you said it's like you learnt your discipline and stuff in this time. But what helped you to do it? Was it just the fact that you were paying 40 grand to do this, or the fact that you just committed to it?
That wasn't even a factor, to be honest, because the money part, like, it's a big deal. And yes, I'm 42 grand in debt now and accruing with whatever the CPI is for the year. But it's because it's student debt, it's sort of like, it's a different category of debt. So you don't worry about it as much because you don't have to pay it back unless you're earning a certain amount. So To a large extent, the money was not really a factor in driving me
real.
forward.
Almost wasn't real.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was just sort of accruing in the background, and unless you logged into the ATO, you couldn't check on it anyway. I think the thing that eventually got me through it was making it past that initial stretch and realizing, okay, I'm actually seeing progress. I'm seeing myself improve. Obviously, the Lord was a big factor in it. I could not have done it without, Holy Spirit guiding me. There were a lot of situations where I just needed wisdom. I just needed a divine understanding of whatever I was looking at because I couldn't do it.
Like technically?
Yeah, technically. And I was looking at a problem and I'm like, Lord, I actually don't know how to solve this. And I just sat, I was quiet, and he just went, here you go, here's the solution. And some moments have really been like that. And I was like, that wasn't me. I know this solution was inspired through some divine wisdom of the Holy Spirit working through me.
Wow.
So those moments were where the Lord started to become really quite real to me in what I was doing. And this is why it's like when people call it secular work, it's not secular, because secular means devoid of God. My work has never been devoid of God. My work what I do has always had him in it, because I literally couldn't have done it without him. Maybe a lot of people can. Maybe a lot of people are just more intelligent naturally. But a lot of what I've learned over time, a lot of what I've accumulated in here, because a lot of people think that thoughts are sometimes the enemy of the Spirit and of the Lord working. But from my experience, it's actually a tool that he uses to teach me and to get me through certain things. And I have confidence that as long as I'm in line with him, my thoughts are his thoughts. And whatever I do, whatever problem that I face, he's there with me. And he's giving me the answers. He's giving me the solutions. And I just have to be willing to listen.
Man, what you said is very true. We do think the thoughts, but he uses those thoughts to shape our character. No, he doesn't use those. He works with our thoughts. Often our thoughts are just, can be a seed of the enemy, but it's just character. It's just our character. It's who we are. It's our, it's what makes us, and they just need shaping. And he does work with us. His word says, my thoughts are not your thoughts. My ways are not your ways. That doesn't mean every thought that's not according to his way is demonic. It's like, no, it's you need to control your thought life and learn and develop.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's cool.
That's something both of us have had to walk through a lot.
Oh man, every man has to walk through, every man and woman, but the way of the world and the way of man's eyes, the way men are attracted and things like that, thoughts are definitely a thing that need control, self-control, need development, and not just writing it off either, and not also just being like, I'll just pray and God will figure it out. It's like, no, you can't pray your way out of certain things. You have to actually develop, grow, stretch.
Yeah, it's very true. And even on that, like, what is prayer? Because we box prayer into talking to God verbally, asking for things, but prayer is actually just existing with him and flowing in his spirit. And I heard this one time from, it was a Jesus image message, and it was that prayer isn't causing ripples in a stagnant pool, but it's actually joining with an already moving stream that is the Holy Spirit. You're just agreeing with things that are happening. So
sounds pretty Jesus image to me.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You're just sort of existing with him, and you're staying in that. And to me, that's what it's always been like. When you're in him, then you can have confidence that your thoughts will be his thoughts, and if they're not, you rein them in.
Yeah. And how do you know? How do you know if your thoughts are his thoughts? Well, you have to be doing something else, and that's learning what his word is, reading his word, spending time listening to him, spending time in the things of him.
Yeah.
Which I like your statement of secular. Your work isn't secular because God's always involved. And I think we fall into traps. I fell into a trap of wanting to be in full-time ministry. when I could have been in full-time ministry in the construction industry, just working, doing my thing and serving people and loving on people in that industry. I fell into the trap of, no, I need to be working for the church and working for a Christian ministry, which is okay. And it's all good. And I'm thankful I am where I am, super thankful.
Yeah.
But I think I robbed myself a little bit of enjoying. Almost touched the microphone. Didn't touch it.
I've needed accidentally several times already.
Yeah. I'm having mad deja vu right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Maybe because I told myself don't touch the microphone so many times. Anyway, so I love that you said that, because the reality is, like, it's when you're learning to pray and you actually realize, oh no, I can pray with God all the time. I can walk with him everywhere. Like, God's omnipresent. He's always with me.
Yeah.
So how am I not praying to him all the time?
Yeah.
And then that analogy of, prayer's not a ripple in the pool, it's joining the flow. That's awesome. So on that thought, man, how is your flow with God at the moment? Like, what's it look like? You're out of uni.
Yeah.
You've got some dreams and hopes that probably aren't as present as you'd want them to be. They might be further down the track.
Yeah.
You're working. You got a cool contract with the place you were interning at. You got a pay rise already. You got, bro, how's everything, and how's God flowing in your life at the moment?
It's pretty amazing, hey? And because he is just in it, and it's all the opportunities I've ever received, I know that they are from him. It's really, in a way, easy to see where he wants me to go, because where he wants me to go, the door's open. Where he doesn't want me to go, no matter how much I try to just ease my way into it,
Nice.
shut door. And that's happened many times. And I've had to have a little bit of a reality check at times where the Lord's gone, I actually want you here. I've put you here. Don't quit. Don't. There was a time where my role at the time as an intern got pretty rough, because I was promised certain things and I didn't get them.
Sounds like an internship.
Yeah. It's like, oh, you moved to this department on this date, a week out from the date. I'm like, what's happening? And they're like, oh, we're not moving you.
Yeah.
So
suck it up.
yeah, pretty much. But I was like, less than a year in at the time, and I was still at the bottom of the ladder, still an intern. It was actually Jash that called me out on this, and it was pretty funny. He's like, you're just some young punk that's walked in the door like a year ago. You're an intern. Like, the fact that they even wanted to consider moving you somewhere else that would progress your career to begin with was already a pretty amazing thing.
Good perspective.
So it was like, man, and I was like, yeah, still wasn't convinced when he told me this. And then he was the one that actually encouraged me to make the initial step to go and ask for a job at this company. I would have maybe been one of the only people that joined without an interview, because I just went up and knocked on the door. And I was like,
oh, that's my style.
I don't think any other company would have really tolerated that. But this one did. And that was all the Lord as well.
You know what's funny?
Yeah.
Is the two dudes that you asked to speak into your life, that's both of them to a T. Like Josh and I, most of our jobs, most of the things we do, we're just like, how are most people doing it? Yeah, no, I'm just going to knock on the door. Can I talk to the manager? Can I talk to someone?
Yeah. And that was it.
And it works, eh?
Yeah, it worked. And I think it was also just the culture of the place as well. They're really spontaneous, sort of like a small tech startup company. So the guy who saw me actually happened to be the person who presented on the thing that I heard about the company through. So I could tell him about it and reference that. And he said, oh yeah, he's legit. He knows because he heard about it through this UQ employer on Zoom event. And that was the Lord's timing, because it was just, he was there. I came in. There was no reception, so I could have ended up talking to anyone, but somebody got him to talk to me, and it was pretty like a divine intervention of the Lord there. So one of the things that Josh reminded me of, like a year later when I was jaded and sick of it already for some reason, he was like, what was the thing that you told me when you first said that you wanted to work there? I said, I'd just be happy to be in the door. And he said, why aren't you still just happy to be in the door? Oh, man. I was like, dang. There you go. So that's my my sort of mentality with it now. It's like in all things, just be grateful. You know, you're there because the Lord put you there, and yeah, you know, in time that things just get. And I've experienced amazing favor in the progression that I've got. I got to the role that I wanted to in the end, just a little bit later in God's time. And just the amount I've been able to learn from the people around me, the people who are way ahead of me in this industry, it's pretty awesome. And like,
Bro,
yeah,
godly, is it Isaiah? Godly contentment. Godly holiness or godliness with contentment is great gain. Is that Isaiah?
I'm not sure.
Someone will look at it or not. Yeah. That's so true. Hey,
Yeah.
How many times we ask for things and we're like, if I could just be here, or if I could just have this, or get this job, or get this house, or have this friend, that's all I want.
Yeah.
And then we often get it, and we're so quick to be like, the goalposts for God just move.
Yeah.
It's like, man,
Yeah.
you told me you just wanted this. Not that he acts like that, because he's not
Yeah,
surprised.
yeah.
He's like, mate. That's why keeping a journal's good.
Yeah.
You can remind yourself of, oh, wow, look at how far I've come. Look at what God's answered.
Yeah.
When you said God opens doors and he closes doors, it sounds super simple.
Yeah.
And I know it's not, but how do you navigate when it's a closed door? Because when it's a closed door, you know, the way you said it, it's like, oh yeah, it's a closed door. I just move on to one of God's open doors. But if it was that simple, we wouldn't have people everywhere that are like upset and grumpy and uncontent.
Yeah.
So how have you navigated? How have you established like, oh, this is a closed door from God. Okay, I'll accept that.
Yeah.
And I'll just keep on going.
With a lot of heartache is the first response, because it's never, well, it's not usually just, oh, that's a closed door. Yeah, sweet, let's move on. It's a lot of pain that can come with that. One of my greatest weaknesses, and you know this, is that I get invested into ideas, thoughts, aspirations, dreams, people very quickly, and the ideas of being in a certain place. And I think it's it's kind of the other side of the coin of one of my greatest strengths, which is the ability to focus and to just drive hard at whatever it is that I feel is on my heart. I feel like I do get invested into things really quickly, and that's what happens when a door is actually meant to be a shut door. I just end up ramming my head into it, and it's like, oh, why? and usually there's a lot of heartache, a lot of coming to the Lord, a little bit of tears sometimes, depending on what it is, and then He's eventually, your perspective just changes, and again, it's coming back to the gratitude, like, man, He's actually already done so much for me. And if He wanted me to have this, it'd be easy for Him. Yeah. And if He doesn't want me to have it, well, He's made it pretty clear. And there is also the something that I've had to do myself a few times, especially in the not a few times, just once so far, in the area of like romantic relationships and pursuing people. Like actually putting out a fleece, like Gideon's fleece before the Lord, and being like, hey, I actually have no idea what you want me to do. Can you show me? And I think there is a certain time and place for that. I don't think it's every single decision you ever make should be like that. But I think so long as my heart is in a place that says, Lord, I actually just want to know what you want for me. I actually just want to know your will for my life.
That's cool.
Show me the way. And I think in those situations, He really does. And in that situation, He really did. And at the time, it was a clear no. He shut the door. And because of that, there was the grieving, the wrestling with that, and being like, I have the answer. I'm just not quite okay with it yet.
Yeah.
But then you do become okay with it, because you just come back to the fact that He's a good Father and that He just wants the best for you.
Which means you'll have the best. You'll have what you desire.
Yeah. Yeah. He's got the very best for you.
You just got to deal with it in the process.
Yeah. Just buckle down, tough it out. Or don't tough it out. Just be at His feet and really give it all back to him, because my life's not mine anyway.
Yeah.
And that's actually what it comes back to all the time. It's realizing that the situation that I get myself into, where I get so invested into things, you become a little bit entitled and deserving. You feel like you deserve certain things, but you actually deserve nothing. This life's not even your own. So when I'm actually able to come back to the realization of that, that's when it all sort of becomes okay. And he's like, see, I've got you. It's my life. Well, he's saying to me, that's my life. I'm just giving it to you to steward, to manage while you're here. And I think that approach has really helped me to just take things as they come. Yeah.
Man, it's really good perspective, eh? That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
I guess, and if you looked at things that way, wouldn't matter what situation you're in.
Mm-hmm.
If you look that God's actually a good father,
Yeah.
and that, what that involves is a lot of things. It means that he will look after you ultimately, that you will be okay ultimately, that you will survive, and that, you'll be okay.
Yeah.
And so that involves a lot. And you could like pretty it up and be like, you'll have the best, you'll be blessed. And it's like, oh, well, that's all subjective as well, because what's blessed to me is not the same as what's blessed to a 33-year-old that lives in a village in Africa.
Correct.
So that, and then also that, it's actually his life is, and what he wants.
Yep.
He is my king. And I don't surrender. I submit to him.
Yeah.
Man, you can't go wrong, eh? And I guess the only time you're going to go wrong is when you do get entitled.
Yeah.
Which is what you said. Oh, but God, you promised me this, or whatever. Which is, man.
It's a difficult line to walk.
Yeah.
Sure.
How do you think prove to me that God's real? Like, how can you prove, because it's easy to say these things, but you can't actually walk it out unless you have a deep conviction in your life. So how do you know, Jordan, that God's real? Like, I'm a young atheist talking to you now. Man, all that stuff's great, but prove to me God's real, man.
Yeah, that's challenging. And if you know me, evangelism is actually one of my most least developed things. But man, that is challenging. And I think for me, it's got to be, there is no explanation for how you can go from being in a place of complete anguish and pain, torment, to suddenly experiencing a peace. There is nothing in this world that can just switch it around in an instant. There is no thought, no human construct that you can develop in your minds that will actually allow you to be in your right mind and go from complete and utter being distraught and in distress and all of that ugly state, the worst possible state you could be in, to being to a place of complete peace and rest. That's only God. And to me, that's been my experience. And I can only ever speak out of my own experience with him. I can only ever speak out of my own testimony and what I've walked through with him. And oftentimes it's nothing radical, but it's just that still small voice that's with you in the quiet, that's with you when you're grieving, when you're feeling your most alone, when you're feeling the most defeated. And that's actually when he can come in and give you everything, because you've decreased.
Yeah.
And you've just let go and you say, my life isn't mine. And for a lot of people in the world, they can't understand that, because to everyone who's out there who doesn't know who he is and what kind of father he is in his nature, control is the strength. Control is the thing that you need over your life. And as soon as you lose control, well, you're stuffed and everything goes wrong. But it's actually when you let go of control, when a God who loves you comes and takes over and is actually able to say, now I can take control. Now I can give you exactly what you need to walk through this time in your life. And for me, that's when he's been the most real. I've had some pretty awesome, like, I've spoken words over people. I've received words from people, prophetic words that also, it's just a glimpse into the nature of God, that you couldn't have possibly known this about me. I couldn't have possibly known this about you. And that's awesome. That's just one facet. But for me personally, it's that, how do you lose control? And especially for somebody as logical as me and as reasoning as I am, to be able to completely give up control and yet feel at peace. That's different.
Yeah.
That's God to me.
Let's talk about porn.
Yeah.
Man, massive struggle with porn.
Mm-hmm.
I remember our conversations. How long ago? Did we first engage? 2 years?
Probably close to,
2 years when we started talking about it?
Yeah.
And you were like, man, I'm flipping done, bro.
Yeah.
I can't do this. Like, I hate this. I can't. Man, you just were like, fuck.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, being there.
Yeah.
Man, I know it's not God's will for our life to be watching this. And it's a lack of self-control. Let's go on this journey together. Bro, do you remember the feeling? Do you remember the pain of the start of that?
Oh, yeah. Big time. It's like it was yesterday. And it's, man, the amount of, I don't know, like, where I am now, I would have never thought was possible back then.
You said that to me.
Yeah.
I cannot see.
Yeah.
I cannot see a way out of this.
Yep.
Like, I cannot see myself free from this.
Yep. Yep.
I was like, oh, that's cool. Because God's like, I can work with that.
I can make a testimony out of that. Come on.
I can see the way out.
Yeah. And it's interesting because you hear about people who get miraculously delivered from this stuff. And I'm like, why can't I have that? Why can't I just take that? And
give me that pill.
Yeah, yeah. But I guess it's a completely different testimony, isn't it? Like, for me, it was the hard yards. For me, it was the stumble. Hey, Sam, stuffed up again. Hey, Sam, I looked at this again. And sometimes it was you saying, hey, you've looked at this again. Because of the app that tells you that I've been looking at stuff.
Shout out to Ever Accountable.
Yeah, Ever Accountable.
Yeah.
Sponsorship deal.
Yeah, they were looking for some free memberships. We've got a group of boys that are signed up at the moment.
Yo, let's go. It was a blessing, that. And but I feel like it's the only, that just touching on the app very briefly, it's the only sort of thing you can really do if you're committed, if you have the conviction in you first to say, I want to deal with this.
Yeah.
It's just a tool to help you along the way. It's not in itself the be all and end all. It can't be.
No, you can get it, bro. You can get around stuff. You can, yeah that's true. You got to want it.
Yeah,
you got to want
exactly. And it's just something to keep you wanting it and to keep you there. But man, what a journey it's been. There's even just observable changes within me that I can see. Like, I have more energy. I'm more motivated to do things, to actually sit down and do the hard stuff. I find things funnier, which was an interesting thing that I wasn't expecting. Like, things just actually tickle me more now, which I think is something to do with, the way that your dopamine receptors are now sort of refreshed and at a normal state and not constantly getting shot by the dopamine, the artificial dopamine hits that porn gives you.
100%. And also the shame, the removal from the daily shame or the every second day, whatever it is, for sure that affects your personality.
And then you can just walk in confidence now. And you're like, Lord, I am in you. And sin separates us from him. This was the most, I guess, clear example of that for me in my life. It separated me from him in every way possible.
Can I ask, like, what made you reach out? Like, a ton of people won't ever reach out with this stuff. There's too much shame, or even I'll reach out once, but then I fell again.
Yeah.
And like, too much shame. I don't want to go back. I'll just bury this and tell everyone I'm all good.
Yeah. Well, that actually happened for a while for me, and I think you were maybe the third person I'd come to about this. Jash was actually one of the people I went to before you. And I think what happened was it became like our relationship just became about that after a while. It became about keeping me accountable rather than us being friends. And I felt it go that way. I'm not sure if he saw it that way, but that's the way that I felt like it was. And I felt like every time I was talking to him, it was because I was having to confess that I'd done something again and I'd slipped up again. And it became, and it was really good that he caught something, he caught wind of that. And he said, dude, like, you can't be so focused on your sin that you lose sight of Jesus. And I was like, let's go. And he was like, basically we came to the agreement that we just wouldn't talk about it anymore because as and when I was ready, I would just come to my senses and get back on the train of trying to put in the work and get out of it. But until then, it was like, man, the actual important thing is to focus on the Lord and to focus on his calling on your life and realizing along the way that this needs to come off. And I think to answer your question, the thing that kind of brought me to you, we actually first started talking around the context of relationships. And it was that the young adults panel night that you and Sammy were on that was talking about dating in the Christian sphere. And it's a pretty contentious topic even now that I'm walking out actively.
You and another 5 million.
Oh, man. But it's we started talking around that, and I think it just sort of made me reflect on myself in all the ways that I just wasn't ready. And that was a big one. It's like I've heard so much about how damaging it can be to a relationship and to a marriage if it's not dealt with early on. And that was part of my conviction to deal with it before I even began any sort of relationship, because I have always wanted companionship growing up. Like, it was the thing. And it still is for me. It's still a dream, to be with someone, as I'm sure it is for many guys. But when you have that conviction, and I know, and I sometimes even caught a glimpse, whether through my own time with the Lord or with other people speaking into my life, I caught a glimpse of the fact that whoever she was, she's going to be pretty darn special. And she's going to be one of God's favorites, and that's just sort of like, I'm like, man, if she is that good, there is no way she deserves this garbage that's still attached to me. And that was a big part of what drove me towards wanting to overcome it. It's of course it's easy to say that the number one thing has to be, because it's the will of God for your sanctification to be worked out. And it is the number one thing. But sometimes it's easy to lose sight of that because it's so intangible. It's so like, it's just a thing that you're told. And now you have to walk it out with an internal conviction with nothing else except that. The internal conviction definitely comes along the way. You realize as you walk with him, this is just how it has to be, regardless of whether there's somebody there or not in your life for you to be working towards your purity for. But I would say that conviction of wanting to be clean for whoever it is that I end up with, because it's cheating at the end of the day.
Yeah.
If whoever looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery in his heart.
Matthew,
so
cool.
It's, to me, that it was that it's cheating. So it needed to be dealt with. It needed to be gotten rid of.
And it's also weird.
Yeah.
Like, it's so normal now.
Yeah.
It's so normalized.
Yeah.
But it's actually so weird.
Mm-hmm.
And like, weird's a nice way of putting it. It's gross.
Yeah. It's
like,
grot.
and I'm not going to say that to someone who's in it.
Yeah.
Well, I probably would, to be honest. There's people listening now
Depending
that are
on what
probably
they
in
need.
it.
Yeah.
But it's been normalized. But when you're away for a while, you're like, that's actually super weird.
Yeah.
Like, why would I want to do that?
Well, you feel that every time immediately after doing the deed.
Yeah, it's true.
You're like, that's disgusting.
Yeah.
Who the heck am I? Like,
And that's the enemy's game as well.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
come on. And then as soon as after, it's like, oh, have
Yeah.
some shame, my friend.
Yeah.
Here's some shame for you.
And that's why it really is the sin that separates from God in all areas, because it's before you're doing it, you're thinking about it, so you're not thinking about him. when you're doing it, you're obviously not thinking about him. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing it. Then, and then after the fact, it's like so much shame, as you just said, that it's not even there's no room for the Lord to speak to you in those moments at all. It's just you, your thoughts, the enemy, who you've just given complete right to plant thoughts into your mind because you've literally just opened your eyes to the world of the enemy. And there's no room for the Lord anymore. It really is the sin that just separates in all stages if you're in it. And that's what I found, that it was just separating me from him in every way. And it's not until actually walking it out and getting to a certain point of like measurable improvement that I realized how much I was missing out on with him. I'm like, man, I can actually feel you now, Lord.
Good.
And to be honest, for me, this recent season has been not just cutting that out, but cutting things like gaming out as well, because I found gaming actually had the same effect on me.
Yeah.
And you know, I've got that real obsessive personality, the drive towards things that, you know, really tickle my brain in some way. And gaming is one of those things, especially those like games that you play by yourself, not with friends. Like I would get really invested into them. I would find that, you know, you can't really focus on that and also be communing with the Lord at the same time. Afterwards, your mind is cooked because you just spent so much time focusing on it. So,
and it's one thing I noticed with gaming is I used to do it as rest.
Yeah.
So I'd play Fortnite as rest.
Yeah.
Bro, did I ever hop off Fortnite and was like, oh, I'm feeling so well rested and relaxed. No, I'd hop off Fortnite 1 a.m. in the morning and I'd be like, I can't sleep. I'm so wired.
Yeah.
And I actually realized, man, this is not relaxation for me. It's not downtime.
Yep.
It's as intense for my brain as it is for my body to do manual labor. It is because, you know, you're so wired and there's so much happening and it's very true. It's taking all of your energy. It's definitely not good for you.
Yeah, especially after the fact. Like it would affect my sleep a lot. And it would just be, I wake up the next day completely cooked because my mind was still active on the way into sleep. So even though I get there, it's still more active than it should be because there's so much stimulation that comes with it that you don't get the proper rest. And then you enter this sort of vicious cycle. And for me at the time, like my gaming would actually feed into my porn addiction, because it would lower my resistances, it would lower my walls of self-discipline, it would weaken my mind, and I'd have this massive, I don't know, 4-hour, 5-hour gaming stint. I know for some people 4 hours isn't a massive gaming stint.
It's big,
but
bro.
yeah, it was like just focusing for 4 hours on something that's like got your full attention, and after you're done, your mind's cooked. You sort of enter a depressive state because again, dopamine receptors gone. Then you start to think, what can actually top that? Then that was often when I would stumble.
Yeah.
And so I realized that one thing fed into another. So I think a big part of it for me was realizing what else needed to be cut to get rid of it. And it's tough because you're just chopping things off left, right, and center. Social media's gone as well. That was the other thing.
Well, when you start to look, you notice where the doors are.
Yeah.
And then you notice, wow, I've got doors open everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere. So social media is easy to get rid of initially, but then you realize, man, even on YouTube, when I'm looking at videos of how to build this or something simple, the ads or the suggestions, bro, just little doors.
Yeah.
Just a video of this that's going to trigger a thought, trigger a brain track to head down.
Yeah.
And you realize, man, I've got to close a lot of these doors.
Yeah.
And would you say that's where the hard work was in doing that? And then is that where the maintenance is?
I would say that was more the maintenance side. And it was like it was recognizing the threat of it that was the hard work, because I think it was harder at the beginning for me to get rid of it. And as I went through, I was like, because I think you challenged me to get rid of it for 3 months. And just to go on a complete cleanse. After 3 months passed, I'm like, I don't even want to go back anymore.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it was harder at the beginning, partly because you're so used to the habit of scrolling and using that as your rest and relaxation. and, you know, windows into things that you shouldn't be looking at. But I think the other thing was like the fear of missing out as well, like because people post stuff on their story and you feel like you're engaging with their life when you're on there, and you want to know. And I missed out on so many young adults events because I wasn't on social media.
Yeah, I remember we wrestled that out.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, the only real form of communication of when stuff's happening. So we were like, oh, how do we problem solve this? Even I was going to start sending you the posts. And I was like, nah, that's not practical. How can we do this?
Yeah.
So that was a real thing. What was the solution again? What did we do?
I don't think we did anything. But
didn't you communicate with someone and were like, hey, can you text me?
So I tried to. People don't. People aren't really reliable like that.
Hey guys, I'm just over here in the battle of my life to get rid of some sin. Can you just text me when something's on?
No, but I think the realization that I came to with that is like, man, if I'm actually close enough with these people, they'll just tell me. They'll think of me when they know that there's something on that I wouldn't see. They'll think of me. And if they don't think of me, it's because I'm not close enough to them. It means I haven't invested enough into that relationship. And coming to that realization gave me just that peace of mind. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to truck on. I'll invest into the relationships that I feel that I need to. And
that's good.
Yeah, I don't feel the need to look on people's story to find out where they are, what they're doing, if I'm missing out on anything. If they care enough about me, they'll tell me. And that was proven right. People did just say, hey, you going to this? And I was like, I didn't hear about that, but thank you.
Nice.
Yeah. Man. So I think that was a really healthy step for many, many reasons. And yeah, I don't see myself really going back on it, on any form of social media, just because I kind of don't really like it anymore, really. After spending some time away from it, you realize how shallow it can be.
Yeah. And
also how much it feeds your longing for attention, and you're longing to consume things that aren't of God. And it's, it was one of those things that it was a game changer to actually cut out of my life. And I know that there's uses for it. Like in time to come, I want to start my own business. So social media marketing is kind of a no-brainer. It's the way to go.
Yeah.
A lot of these things. So hopefully someone else can do that for me.
You employ someone.
Yeah. Something like that. But it was a pretty massive game changer getting rid of that. And funnily enough, the other thing that I found, because I was just sort of finding things to replace whatever I cut out with, that were definitely less damaging, but eventually I realized they had a similar effect, so they had to go as well. One of those things was actually crypto trading, because I found that when I got off social media, I was like, oh, I need something to look at. So then I was just looking at the markets. I was like, looking at some charts and like
a little bit less dopamine, but still pretty good.
Yeah. You're like, ooh, money, which could actually be worse. But but then I started to I was starting to get the kick out of it. I'd start to, take on risk that I really shouldn't have been taking on. And then I think it came to a certain point where I heard a message, and it was talking about the little foxes, as it mentions in the Song of Solomon, which are actually the little things of life that take your attention away from the Lord. The little things. It's because it's easy to spot a big thing. It's easy to spot a massive distraction or obstruction in your walk. It's not as easy to spot the little things that accumulate over time, and they are the things that actually rob you. It can even involve, like if you're doing work for the Lord, little things that come with doing ministry can rob your passion from the Lord.
Oh, yeah.
So for me, it wasn't that, obviously, because I'm not serving in ministry. But for me, it was the trading. That actually was what it was drawing my attention away from him. I found I couldn't sit down and read the word for more than 20 minutes without having to check it and check where is my position at, how much money have I made today, how much money have I lost today, and it was consuming my thoughts, and it was things I would think about when I was going to sleep. It would be the first thing I thought of when I woke up. Sometimes I'd have dreams of it. So I was like, nah, this ain't it. So that was one thing that had to go as well, especially when it was the real short-term stuff where you use leverage and you really multiply your risk and you're closing and opening stuff within the hour. That stuff can be really, for the wrong person, it can be quite damaging. And I was definitely the wrong person. Some people can do it. I can't. Yeah. So ain't going back.
Man, yeah, good. I I want to end on this just because we talked a bit about it. Like, how did you get your streaks up? And then what did you do when you broke a streak? And the guys that are listening will know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Most people.
Yeah.
The girls can check out and just pray to the Lord. How did you start to build your streaks? And then what did you do when you broke a streak to not go into a pit or to pull yourself back out and keep trucking down?
Yeah, well, I've definitely had many situations where I went into the pit and maximized the pit because I was already there. Like, you go from 80 to 100 days and you come back to 0. It's difficult not to just be like, I'm already at 0. What's the harm in doing it again within 24 hours? And often that was the case. That's what happened. To actually get there and building the streaks up, I'm not sure there was any one thing that I changed that got me there. I think it was just the fact that I had failed multiple times before that and realized at the end of the day that this is a journey, that treat every day as though it's day one. That's one of the things you told me. It's like every day is a new day. Every day has its own battles. You're going to come up with new obstacles. You're going to be in a different frame of mind to how you were yesterday. What worked for you yesterday might not work for you today. And I think it was coming to a realization of that because I didn't consciously, well, it's not entirely true, but I think now obviously would be the longest that I've ever been clean, which is over a year now.
Come on.
And it's not something when you are actually there, you're not consciously aware of it. And I think that's when the true freedom actually is when you're not counting the days anymore.
Yeah. Yes.
And when you're focused on that every day is a new day, and you are just like treating it from the perspective, and this might not be true, but looking at it as though you are equally likely to stumble now as you were in day one, just being that careful of what you look at, what you allow in, even the words that you allow and tolerate around you. Like, I know some dudes around me will playfully be like, "Ooh, she's a looker," she's just like real ironically, but I won't even really tolerate that because it's feeding into something that it shouldn't. Even if it's in a way that starts off as joking, you're still opening your eyes to something. Good. You're still letting things in. You're still giving that window a little crack open. And I think when you come to the realization that, man, the visual is actually so potent for us men. It's actually so easy for one split-second image of something to make its way in and start festering. Like, when you realize how vulnerable you are, I think the guard being up is just how it has to be. And sooner or later, the guard's going to be built up. Like, I think it's not about building up the streak. It's about building up the wall. Yeah. And as you build that wall up, the streak will come. Your freedom will come because it's habitual now for you to protect yourself, to guard yourself, to fill your mind with things that are good and not of the world, no matter what form that comes in.
I feel like God spoke to me more in our journey together than probably ever.
Wow.
With certain things. No, because I would just wake up in the morning, honest, and I would just have something for you. God would just be like, "Hey, get in contact with Jordan." And I remember this one. Tell him, I'm not sure if you remember or not, tell him that he has boundaries and fences that he's built up, but he needs to go and check the perimeter and make sure he isn't letting anything in. Mm-hmm. And he needs to strengthen it and he needs to rebuild it a different way today. Mm. And I'm like, that sounds pretty good. Yeah. So I'd call you, I'd be like, "Hey, bro," or I'd send you a voice message or whatever.
Yeah.
And But hey, this is us for today. Part 2's been good, bro. You started by saying, your work's not secular, but then you went on and said, I'm not in ministry, but you are in ministry, bro. Mm. All your free time, when we're not watching UFC, is
Cut that part out.
Yeah. When we're not just having some downtime and watching some fights and stuff that we might shouldn't be watching, whatever, is actually dedicated to the Lord, bro. With a lot of it, you are in ministry, bro. You are in ministry. Just because you're not, your evangelism gift isn't number 10, doesn't matter, bro. You're walking it out, and it's actually awesome.
Yeah,
you're a blessing, bro. You're an example. For the younger guys that are coming up and for your mates around you.
Yeah.
But, bro, keep walking it out. Thanks for coming for round 2.
Absolutely.
We'll put it in the calendar for 3 years from now, Tay. We'll get Jordan in again. Talk about the wife and kids.
Oh, man.
Let's go.
That's the dream.
Thanks for coming, Geordie.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Peace.